Hey there, goblins. Welcome to another episode of Goblin Salvage Rites.
That's us.
My name's Robert.
That's you, and I'm Eric. But you're you.
And you, Goblin, are watching us.
Yeah, but not you.
Or maybe listening to us. Who knows?
Somebody needs to get that guy in the back and throw him the fuck out of here.
Get out of here. Today, we're going to be talking about focus spells.
Focus spells. The irony being, we are the most unfocused dudes in this room.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're also the only dudes in this room.
Yeah, so it works on all levels.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the best, absolute dump truckiest, big bootiest focus spells.
Yep.
In the player core one.
Yeah, and I went all the way up to level 10 booty, so
Yes.
it's big.
Yes. I basically, Eric's going to just tell you about some really cool spells he likes, and I'm going to tell you about the ones I think you should probably consider taking. And believe it or not, there's very few of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because focus spells are weird.
Sure.
But before we jump into that delicious topic, we have to talk about apparently everyone's favorite thing on this podcast.
We played.
It's what we played.
Yeah. It still blows me away.
It still blows me away. You guys
we live to serve.
You guys are animals.
Serve to live.
Animals.
Yeah.
So,
what's first? We got like 4 games going on
I know,
right now.
it's crazy. I might have another one going on soon.
Summer's been kind to us in that respect.
Edgewatch. Eric, tell us about...
Edgewatch has been huge. So in my mind, I think
Edgewatch.
of this entire 20-level Edgewatch experience I've been doing for 3 years in the shape of like a V or a check mark maybe, where at the very bottom, that's the midpoint in the campaign, and everything changes. So that moment happened last week, the week before, whenever we played last, where Elmo Barley Bramble, the halfling that's been the cornerstone of this entire experience, the halfling's family has been NPCs, major and minor, for this entire experience, the linchpin and everything I've been writing. He finally regained that 2 weeks of his life that he lost at the age of 14 or so. And for those of you who don't remember, my story is all hinging on the concept of a group of friends lost about 2 weeks of their memory when they were teenagers. And ever since then, they've been changed. They've been acting different, behaving differently. They're just depressed. They're morose. They're fighting to create an identity for themselves because they're just teenagers. They're no longer the happy-go-luckies. So doom and gloom, fast forward about 10, 20, 15 years later, and Elmo remembers everything now. And it turns out that he was abducted as a kid. And there was a group of cultists, we all know who they are, and they shoved an extraplanar entity into his body, is the idea. So he's been having sort of like a possessed experience without knowing he's possessed since he was 14 years of age. And he just now remembers. And the reason being is we came across the Herald of Norgorber in the lower temple for Norgorberites. So we're sitting here fighting like the right hand of Norgorber himself. And that guy's like, we need to talk. You little silver kobold fuck. We've met before. I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. But you don't remember me. So we're not going to do this right now. When I kick your ass, little kobold fuck, it's going to be as you remember who you are and what you are, not this little kobold shit you have. Why are you looking like a kobold? You're better than that. You're a dragon. What is this shit? No, we're not fighting here. So they had that kind of discussion. And the kobold player is like, okay, I've kind of been guessing a little bit of what's going on, but I know the Herald of Norgorber from a previous lifetime. So that's going to be, everything is just ramping up in terms of tension there. And during that whole thing, Elmo's been quietly just going batshit crazy in his head as all those memories are flooding back. And what I did was I created a little system where I grabbed 6 NPCs for each character, curated from the list of many dozens we've had since level 1. And I had the players kind of pick 2 or 3 of them for me to play with. And I filled out the rest of the list. So I randomly determined which of those NPCs that all of our characters know, that all of our characters have interacted with, are related to, have slept with, have married, which ones of them. One of them is going to be an absolute betrayer, one from each list. Another one's going to be sort of like a lowercase t traitor, where they'll sell you out for a nickel, but they're not going to put their resources on the line for it. There's going to be another version of that for steadfast ally, where they'll put everything on the line for you. Another one for the I like you and I won't turn you away if you come for help, but I'm not putting my family in danger for you, that sort of thing. And then everybody else is somewhere in between. And 3 of those, everybody else's, they were there during that 2-week period getting bad shit shoved into them too. All of these people are NPCs everybody's been dealing with since level 1, but you don't get to know any of them on that list. You just know they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
So Dragrid would have had a traitor. He would have had a lower traitor. He would have had a steadfast ally and, a lower ally. There would have been somebody in the room with him when he was getting a bunch of bad shit in the shadow plane shoved into him. And he would remember that in this scene. So that's what happened at Edgewatch. That was part 1 of 2. We're coming up on part 2 this Saturday.
That's
so stay
exciting.
Tuned. It's pretty fucking rad. I've been building up to this moment for years at this point. And now it's rockets ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I usually don't get excited about the Edgewatch recaps, but this one,
pretty epic.
We're doing good.
Yeah. That's dope.
What about you? You got some Bloodlords and Delta Green going on,
yeah,
right?
so apparently there's this thing, Foundry updated to like version 13.
Foundry, I've been hearing good things about this update. Stellar
And,
things.
Well, apparently it pooped on all of our plugins.
Yeah.
So half of the game was like us just trying to figure out, like the DM Kyle was just getting frustrated the whole time because everything looked kind of okay from our end. And on his end, he was like, yeah, I just can't click on anything.
Sorry, Kyle.
And nothing's working. So we didn't really accomplish too much. Yeah. Not
Still
a lot.
dead?
We're still undead.
Okay.
No one died. We basically went to a tax collector to find out if the person we're after is a part of the community. They're like a lawyer, a part of the community. And we went to this tax collectors guild representative in this town who's like a major player. And we just knocked on the door and we're like, hey, we've got some questions about this person. Just want to see if they're on the up and up. That's all. Because we figured if we can get them in legal trouble, then we can have an excuse to, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So instead of like meeting us like a normal fucking person, they had this like grandiose entrance on a balcony and they were like, let's see how good you are. And then like they had their statues of succubi started attacking us. And then a random plant started attacking us. And we rolled really bad.
Oh, good.
Like, I didn't hit anything the whole fight.
Nice.
Or maybe I hit once out of like 5 rounds or something crazy like that. And it wasn't for a lack of trying. I don't think it's a extreme encounter or anything like that. I just think we're doing bad. I just think the dice are against us. Honestly, it's rough out there, goblins. Yeah. It's rough out there.
We had a version of that on the play-by-post for Runelords that we're doing. Also, Kyle's running that one, and none of us could make any of our rules. In fact, there were some serious critical fails at really awkward moments, and a lot of these were role-play moments. My character was getting dressed down in public by his dad, and he's like, "Where are my children?" And he's screaming in, Tien Sha language, Minkai, and nobody else can understand except me and Amiko. And we're like, all right, yeah, we're right here. He said, get ready. We're leaving. Sandpoint isn't safe anymore. Goblin raids. So we're going back to Magnamar, to the estate. And, his sister was like, no, we're not. And I don't think Elko wants to go either. And Elko's like, don't bring me into this. I'm not ready for this. I can't confront my father. So,
baby.
Yeah, anyhow, there was a big old, throwdown, and my sister ended up smashing him upside the head with a
dad
with not a tea kettle, but like a fucking soup ladle.
Oh my god!
Yeah, just cracked him across the fucking jaw, and she's like, "Get out of here and don't come back." And Dad looked at her and looked at me, and I'm like, "What do you do when you're the browbeaten youngest kid of that kind of a family?"
That's crazy.
So he left. She went into the kitchen and cried on the local ranger who we're about to meet on her shoulder. And I just my character just kind of looked around and made his excuses. Yeah, Dad's really stressed right now. It's the festival, the Swallowtail Festival, and the Glassworks is really busy, and we're all pretty overworked. I should go check on him. Got the fuck out of there.
Aw.
Ran back, and this is a long story, so I'm going to truncate it for you. My character is ready to just end it all because he can't confront his dad. He just doesn't have the power to. He doesn't have it in him. So he goes to the edge of the cliff where his mom was murdered 5 years ago during the killing spree that happened. And he was getting ready to go join his mother. But his best friend followed him out of that location, tracked him here,
this is a
and got in the
Hallmark
way.
movie.
It really fucking was. I mean, this is
my
the sort of thing
God.
I kind of want to do an audio
This
transcript
isn't
reading
written
of it.
into Edgewatch.
Yeah.
No, this isn't written into Sandpoint.
The cool
This
thing is it wasn't like just me,
Right.
you know, one of the other goblins out there who's playing my character's best friend. We were just basically, one of the other players called it an Oscar-winning performance.
Oh my God.
That we both did. And it was just so fucking rad.
Maybe we do an audio,
Maybe.
retelling. That'd be fun.
So I got to basically lay my character's shit bare in front of one character, so he knows. And basically my character's just like, he drank a bunch of his alchemical potions
Like-
and they mixed together to get him like really fucked up, like LSD fucked up. And he got to the edge of the cliff and he's like hallucinating. So he's talking to somebody. Is it his mother? Is it the air? Is it death? Is it his friend who's standing right behind him? You don't know. It's a hallucinogenic thing. And so he kind of reveals all the bad shit that's been going on, strips down to nothing. And he's covered head to ankles with bruises because his dad beat him almost every day with a cane. And now we know why Elka's so fucked up.
Oh my God.
And, you know, best friend over there, he's like, gets caught in the throat and he starts crying. But Elka's on a fucking LSD trip, right? He doesn't even know he's there or doesn't quite realize it. So all that happens. And then, you know, the best friend kind of goes, nope, gets me back from the cliff. And then, you know, we get dressed, run back. And that's when the shit really hit the fan because one of the other characters went to the glassworks to look for my dad. Because dad was either at the glassworks or at home, and we went home. He went to the glassworks apparently. Got up to the top, looked down through the window, and it turns out there's a whole bunch of goblins holding my dad and a bunch of other people hostage. And my half brother is down there leading the taking of the hostages. And he and my dad are like having an argument. And then the goblins just start shanking prisoners left and right, just cutting their throats and blood all over the floor.
Oh my God.
Our PC guy, he's like freaking the fuck out up there. You know, he's this little fairy like this tall. And
Literally a
and it's
fairy.
like banging on the window, trying to bash it and get through and help, but he can't. So he runs to the edge of the roof and starts screaming, goblins in the glassworks, goblins in the glassworks. And the rest of us catch up. And that's where we stopped.
Damn.
Really fucking epic. 2 games I was in had massively epic moments within the same week. And that never happens. So that was that was delicious.
That was like a Hallmark movie from start to finish.
If I have 20 shitty games in a row, that'll be okay because this I can come back to. And that's the whole point of this hobby at the end of the day for me.
Exactly.
So, what else was there? Delta Green.
Yeah, Delta
I think that was the last
Green.
thing we did.
Yeah.
That was also rad.
Yeah, things are starting to ratchet up. The speed of the game is increasing because the pressure is on now. We basically threw a body. We had to steal a body from the morgue.
We're basically undoing some fuck ups we did earlier.
Yeah, we got called by like our no-name faceless boss being like, I need you to take the meat and put it in the green fridge. And like 10 minutes of that was us just figuring
repeat, the green fridge. Do you understand the green fridge?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you?
Oh my God. So we were like trying to figure it out for 10 minutes, like IRL. We eventually did, but Eric's character was like, dude, this is a setup. He originally told us to destroy all the
totally
evidence.
a fucking setup.
And now he's telling us to not destroy the evidence. What the fuck? And I'm like, all right, well, let's go to the green fridge and just see if it was a setup to begin with. And it wasn't, but we were still unsure. So we just have this body in our back of our car.
There were fresh tracks.
Yeah, there were fresh tracks. So then we go from there to stealing a second car because we're going to dump our original car that we rented at the mine, where we also have to investigate to see, we think this is where like the infestation came from. We drive up to the mine. That's just like a giant pit. It's like a strip mine. And there are 3 vehicles up ahead. So we create a plan. 2 of the people who are good at guns get out of the car, and they circle around the edge of the pit to like where the tree line is.
We know badness is coming.
Take up Overwatch positions. And Eric's character and my character, I'm in like a full ass CDC like gown, you know, ready to take samples and get my hands dirty. And Eric's character just has like a mask on and is an FBI agent. So we walk up, there's like these 3 people. 2 of them are from a multinational chemical company.
Yeah.
And then the other one is part of like the land management, federal
Something
land
like
management,
that, yeah.
something like that. And we walk up and we're like, so earlier on in this game, one of the other bodies had died and gotten sent to the morgue in the hospital. And I kind of like pulled the like serious breakout alarm.
Yep.
And made the whole thing shut down.
Whole hospital shut down.
Whole hospital shut down. And I just kind of like walked out of there. My job's handled. So when we get to this guy, I'm like, we are investigating the hospital getting shut down. So we came and we found a lead that led us here. So we came to investigate and take samples. And the guy was at first like really paranoid.
Yeah.
And then he got like really defensive.
I thought he was just sort of like doing the whole like, how do we not look like we're doing something illegal here? Not necessarily, you know, weird tentacle creatures from outer space.
No, I think you were right. He really was just like, how do I, like, they're probably covering something up and he's probably culpable. This is what I imagine. They're trying to cover something up.
Okay.
And because the multinational corporation doesn't want to get sued and lose a bunch of shit and they're probably paying him. And so we're talking to him and at first he's like freaked out and then he gets really defensive. Like, oh, let me see your paperwork. And then one of the scientists who's like taking samples, just like, not today, Batman, pulls out his gun and shoots me.
Yeah.
Or shoots you.
Me.
Yeah, shoots you. And then because of some die rolls, it like doesn't happen. Oh no, you got hurt, but then you realized you had body armor. So then the rules,
had to roll
we
it back.
walked that back. Yeah. And that's
But he
how we
got me
learned.
after that.
Yeah. So then we got in a firefight, and then all of a sudden the two people who were in Overwatch positions started shooting down at him.
Yeah.
That was super cool.
It was super cinematic.
It was super cinematic. We ended up killing all three of the guys, but like Eric had gotten shot and he was down.
Got to go to the hospital next session.
No, you don't anymore because my character critically succeeded. My medicine check because I'm a medical person. Oh, I got in one of their cars, their trucks, and I literally just like tried to ram them, but I suck at driving so much I missed both times. And on my third turn, I parked the car in between you and the last guy standing to buy us some time. And then you like reached around, you had a bullet wound already, and you like reached around the truck with your pistol, your second pistol.
A second pistol.
Carries a second pistol. Yeah. He's got a Glock and then just like a classic revolver where you like, you know.
Always bring it back up.
Yeah, you got to fan the flame or fan the hammer. He just like reaches around the
plink,
over the edge of the truck, pops him, and then he collapses from his bullet wound. And I was like, oh shit, my character's freaking out. I failed my
medicine.
No, the freak out check. The
sanity check.
I failed the sanity check. Everyone else made it, but because there was no like shenanigans, I just lost sanity. Nothing like crazy happened. But my character starts freaking out, and then all of a sudden you're like, guys, I'm bleeding to death. I need help here. And then he snaps out of it, crits on his medicine check, which is like crazy.
Yep.
And that's where we ended the session. So it was pretty
That's
baller.
3 games that had really bomb-ass moments.
Yeah, that was pretty baller. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm happy.
That was a good what we played, I think. Yeah.
Are we still on the what you played portion of the episode?
Yep. Yeah, it's been 40 minutes, and we're still on what we played.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Well, if that's what people want, that's what they get.
That's what the people. I know it's funny. One of my favorite podcasts that I modeled this one after is one called Trapped Under Plastic.
Right.
With 2 like really popular Warhammer like mini painting guys on YouTube, and they just talk about whatever. And I stole this whole section instead of like what we painted, it's like what we played. I kind of took it. And what's funny is they have this thing called the preamble ramble before they talk about what they painted. And that can often take like an hour on its own.
That is nuts.
They're just talking about random shit.
Yeah.
And it's fun because they're both like fun, engaging guys.
I can only imagine the intent is you listen to that 3-hour video while you're painting in a 3-hour session.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. I actually save up the episodes and use them as like a carrot for me to paint more.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, the newest episode came out. I'm on their Patreon too. So like,
meanwhile, people are watching GSR videos on the toilet. So they only get like 5 minutes at a time of us.
Comment below if you're listening to us while taking a shit.
Yep.
I'll heart every comment that is saying that they're
taking
a shit
the emoji
right now.
to use.
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about today's topic.
What is today's topic?
Focus spells. Specifically,
focus spells.
What are the best focus spells for classes in the Player Core 1? I just actually got my hands on a Player Core 1. Not only any Player Core 1, but a beautiful Wayne Reynolds pencil art copy, which is very cool. Very, very cool. I got this secondhand, I think. How did I get
Such a gorgeous book.
But yeah, it's a wonderful book.
Robert, what is a focus spell and why should I give a
let's
shit?
talk about focus spells first because like some goblins may not know some of the dynamics here. And Remastered changes the way how focus spells work,
Yeah.
actually. So a focus spell is a specific spell that you get as a part of a class feature.
Mhm.
And
So it's a cantrip.
you cast focus spells by using focus points.
Okay.
When you get your first focus spell, you get a pool of 1 focus point. Your pool can be increased in the future by getting more focus spells. And then the maximum your pool can ever be is 3. So you spend a single feat often to get a single focus spell, or sometimes a class feature will give you 1 or 2 focus spells. And you have a pool of focus points that are pretty much always refreshed before the next fight, because
If your GM is generous.
well, yeah, to get your focus points back, you need to spend 10 minutes of downtime refocusing.
Significantly easier than before Remastered.
Yeah, well, before Remastered, it was same 10 points, but you would only get 1 focus point back.
Yeah.
And you could never get your maximum number of focus points back. So you had to be really choosy about how you used focus points or your focus spells. Now it's 10 minutes and you get all your focus points back. So if your focus pool was 3 points after getting, 3 consecutive focus spells, you're at the start of every fight, you've got 3 of these spells loaded in the chamber, ready to go.
That was a really important mechanical rewrite for me personally because of the purpose for focus spells even existing in the first place. So I jokingly said, so it's a cantrip. It's clearly not a cantrip. It's also not a prepared spell. It's also not a this or a that. Focus spells are its own thing. So why do they even exist? Are they redundant, or are they necessary and specific and unique within all the spell casting options?
So what's interesting about focus spells is that they largely replaced this thing that we had in first edition called spell-like abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a feat because it's something supernatural, and we want to limit the number of times you can do it per battle. We don't want you spamming this like a cantrip. We don't want to make it a special action. So we needed something in between, and they came up with this focus pool mechanic. What's interesting about it is your focus pool is shared by all of your class abilities and focus spells. So if you multi-class and grab focus spells, you can pretty much, with 1 or 2 feats, 1 dedication feat and 1 feat, almost every class will give you access to one of their level 1 focus spells. And the cool thing about focus spells is that, like cantrips, they often they're always heightened to the highest possible level of a spell you could cast, which is very, very big deal when you have focus spells that are that have heightened +1. There's a couple focus spells we'll talk about that are absolutely cooked, not cooked, that's bad. Cranked. They're good. They're incredible because they scale with your level, and they keep on giving. Some other focus spells don't scale, and that's kind of icky because it's really hard to change out a focus spell. Eric and I were talking about this before we started the podcast. If you think of a spectrum of wideness of choice to very limited choice, a cleric's spellcasting, where they can change out every one of their spells and every one of their spell slots with any spell in the entire spell list, is the widest possible choices available. And as you reduce the number of choices a spellcaster can make every day, you eventually get to like a sorcerer, where they have a limited number of spells they can choose from, and those are just the only spells they know. And then you get to focus spells, where you spend an entire feat oftentimes getting these, or it's part of your class's whole
that's the big thing.
Ability. Clerics, for instance, they choose a domain. That's where you get your focus spells from. Wizards choose a school. That's where they get their focus spells from. Witches spend feats to get lessons to get focus spells. So these are very integral, important decisions. The most valuable feat in the game. When I say valuable, I mean the most powerful, mechanically powerful and impactful feats in the game are class feats. So to trade one for a focus spell,
you got to really want it.
You got to really want it. And it's got to be important. The other thing here is that when we talk about the best focus spells, it's important to understand that because you're stuck with it pretty much forever unless you do retraining, which some DMs don't even allow.
Right.
You really want to value a spell that has a wide use. for it to be considered traditionally good. I'm sure Eric is probably going to choose some cool spells that are pretty narrow, but if your whole story revolves around these things, they're amazing. You know, if you have a focus spell that says fuck undead in particular, and you're in a game where you're fighting Tarbathon, then that's actually way better than what we would rate it in general.
Sure.
I think.
Right.
Do you want to add anything to that, or is that a pretty good overview?
Yeah,
of focus
5
spells?
discrete points.
Okay, sick.
And you hit a couple of them already.
Awesome.
So let's get my little goblin glasses on.
His little eyes need his little glasses.
All right. So after thinking about it, I came up with these 5, and there's probably more I don't know. So feel free to fill in the blanks. Focus spells, more than any other kind of spell, I feel, they exist to help highlight your class fantasy. So we were talking about cantrips a minute ago. If you have a psychic that casts cantrip A and you have a wizard that casts that same cantrip, how does it feel different playing one class versus the other doing the exact same spell? It doesn't, because it has the same effect. But a focus spell, your monk focus spells, you have to be a monk to use them. You can't be anything else. You're not going to see any other class use those spells.
Yeah.
So focus spells are identity forming. They're a part of the core identity of the class, probably more so than basic feat selection is, I'm going to guess, because you just can't, you know?
That's a good point.
You're not going to have key points as a magus.
Yeah, that's a really great point, because there are feats that are shared across classes.
Exactly.
But I can't think of one instance, except for domains, where focus spells are shared across different classes. And
Does that include the oracle?
I believe when I say domains, that's kind of what I'm leading towards. You know, there's a lot of classes and like archetypes that allow you to pick a domain from the roster. And that's why, as we'll see when we talk about the cleric's focus spells, the cleric domain focus spells are kind of like notoriously weak when compared to all other focus spells.
Sure.
The other thing I really want to, while I have it on mind, is focus spells are often internally balanced to the class. That's incredibly apparent with focus spells like the Druid. The Druid's focus spells are a huge part of their class's identity, like you spoke about, whereas the Cleric's focus spells, ironically, are far less powerful in comparison.
Sure.
And it's just kind of painfully obvious.
Yeah. But they, like you said before, they had that massively wide net for spells and their spell selection. You get to play the cleric power fantasy, not through focus spells, I would argue, but through your actual spell list, just because they have so many options. But when you start getting into like a monk's key spells, it's super, super specific. And that's, you know, it highlights your class fantasy is how I want to phrase it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Item number 2, the focus spells for the individual classes, they provide reliable, flavorful power every single time. If you're a ranger doing a warden spell, you're always going to feel like a badass ranger doing a badass ranger thing. You know, you don't just not feel like a ranger, which is bringing me back to my psychic magic missile, wizard magic missile. It just doesn't really feel like it has an identity. You know, it's about the spell more so than the caster. With focus spells, it's about the caster more so than the spells, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. This encourages tactical pacing, again, because you have to be able to count to 3 and then get your points back and then use them. What if you have back-to-back fights? You know, there's a little bit more of a tactical thought process you go through as opposed to like spamming cantrips and shit like that. So they allow you that. Your character gets super customized using these things. If you're playing a monk, which I did, I played a monk without key spells, so I didn't use focus points. I had built a monk with focus points, and I basically turned him into a Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat character. There's that. And I think I'm just going to leave it there because we got a lot more to get through. But at the end of the day, the TLDR for me for focus spells is they allow you to engage in your class-specific power fantasy. And that in ways that other things like spells and reactions and feats just can't quite, you know, distill it down to.
Absolutely. And I think our first example, our first class that we're going to cover is the Bard, because it's alphabetically first in the book.
Yep.
It is honestly like probably the best example of that.
Yeah. This is Player Core 1, by the way, you guys.
Yeah,
so we're not doing Animist or anything like that.
Yeah, we're not only doing Player Core 1. That way we have more excuses to make another video like this.
Where we talk about our games.
Where we talk about our games for 40 minutes. But no, seriously, like there are so many focus spells. I mean, the Cleric alone took me an entire night to go through. one by one and read all the focus spells and decide which ones I actually thought were good.
Yeah.
It's insane. So
Robert's list is accurate and fair and balanced.
We kept it to just this one book. Actually, okay, let me rephrase. I didn't keep it to just this one book. I kept it to the classes available in this one book.
You motherfucker, you told me to stick with this book. And that's why I said no to a bunch of options. I liked a lot more.
Oh,
yeah. Well. It's okay. Totally fine. I'm happy with my list.
So what happens when I use Archives of Nethys?
I did too this time.
Oh, really?
Be proud of me.
I could have, you're right. I should have filtered it, but now that I say that out loud, I do not know off the top of my head. I'm sure I could figure it out how to filter based on source material.
Mm-hmm. You can.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. Yeah,
I mean, I did it. I had to deselect things.
Literally, yeah. And it tells you what the source material is at the top, but I don't know, man. Some of them were really cool. I decided not to do focus spells that were rare.
Okay.
I decided to pull those out of the list because rare things are just more powerful.
Sure.
And,
I did not pick any rares.
I tried not to compare a 10th level focus spell to a first level focus spell.
Sure.
When making choices, because that's, of course, the 10th level one is going to be way cooler and bigger and badder.
Yeah. Shaq and Webster don't play basketball the same.
Exactly. So yeah, let's jump into the Bard.
Bard.
You want to go first?
Hide your rats, hide your kids, because we are going Pied Piping. I've got myself a Bard focus spell at level 10. So I just went straight to the top for this one. This is in no particular order, because I don't really like any of these more than the others, so I just threw them in there.
What?
Yeah. We're going alphabetical anyway, so I guess that's a moot point.
Okay.
So here we are. We got ourselves another thing. All of the spells I chose, they didn't change from pre-master to remaster. I don't know if that needs to be said. There were a couple of traits that got added, and I think one apiece that got taken away. Just that sort of thing. But there was no rebalancing or errating of any of these, as far as I was able to tell. So that being said, let's dip into this. What we have here is uncommon, Bard, composition, concentrate, focus, incapacitation, always a fun one, mental, and sonic. 5-foot emanation, defense, will, duration, uno minuto. Your performance enraptures listeners, compelling them to follow you. Each creature within the emanation must attempt a will save when you cast a spell, or the first time they enter the area, after which they become temporarily immune for a day. Once per turn, you can sustain the composition to increase the emanation's radius by 5 feet. So this goes on for a minute, and you can continue to increase the radius. Super cool visual for me. You can also dismiss the spell. So there's 4 levels of success.
It's really important to note here, this works like Bless, in that you don't have to sustain the spell to keep it going.
Right.
It happens for a minute, regardless of if you sustain it. Sustaining only increases the area.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a thing you get to do just like anything else. It's a thing you get to do for a period of time just like anything else. But it's cool because you get to do thing +1. It takes an action, but whatever. This is a 10th level focus spell, so you happen to blow. Critical success, the creature is unaffected. Success, creature's fascinated with you. Failure, the creature's fascinated by you and uses all its actions to move forward and complement your performance. It gets all fangirly on you. Critical failure, the target gains the minion trait and is controlled by you. This effect ends if a hostile action is used against the affected creature, or if you direct the creature to use any other action that causes it harm. You know, the usual shit with enchantment type stuff. I really, really like that it gave it the minion trait, because a bunch of episodes ago we were talking about the design space that can blow up as you leverage the minion trait. And as we start making more stuff for GSR, 3-party stuff, I kind of want to lean into the minion trait. So stuff like this is going to be really interesting to see how it play tests. It's the Pied Piper of Hamelin.
Yeah.
I mean, this spell is hundreds of years old in concept. And it's basically just hide your kids, hide your rats, hide your wife, and the Pied Piper's come into town. It's you can build stories around that.
Absolutely. It's peak enchanter, I think. And that's a big class fantasy that the Bard has.
Yeah, that no other class has too. It's pretty unique to that, especially when you start dealing with sonic tags. Yeah. It feels fably and old world rustic. I get some OSR vibes out of this. Pied Piper of Hamelin. It's a Germanic story. Robert Browning wasn't the one who came up with it, even though everybody gives him the credit. So it's a really cool sort of like tip of the hat to, Germanic literature
Absolutely.
that made its way into D&D. So it hits all the right boxes for me.
Sick. Do you have any other stuff for Bard?
Not for Bard, no.
Okay, cool. My number one pick, I picked 3 for Bard. My personal favorite is actually Lore Master's Etude.
Okay.
It lets you get advantage. You'll see this. This is a through line through most of my picks. The through lines are going to be teleportation is OP.
Mm-hmm.
Fortune effects are really good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
You can put that on the front and back of a shirt.
Exactly. So what I love about Lore Master's Etude is it gives you advantage on any knowledge check.
Mm-hmm.
And considering that the way you get this is by taking the Lore Master Bard thing, their subclass, that basically gives you a lore, one lore check roll to roll for everything, When you look at the math of fortune effects, roll 2d20, take the better roll. That means you have a 50% chance on getting a 15 or higher.
How does this pair with Thaumaturge?
Exactly where I'm going next.
I figured.
So the cool thing about this being a level 1 focus spell is that you can dip into it.
Okay.
So you would get unfortunately the Thaumaturge multiclass kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So what you would go is main class Thaumaturge or main class Investigator.
No.
Because the Investigator gets bonuses to knowing about things. And the Thaumaturge also gets these kinds of abilities that allow you to it also gets a skill a knowledge check for everything via a lore. So dipping into this, Thaumaturge Bard lets you re-roll your knowledge checks that are so important to your class power every turn. Very, very cool. The other 2 I picked for obvious reasons. I was pretty unimpressed by a lot of the Bard focus spells, if I'm being completely honest. But the 2 others that have to be mentioned, because they're just core to making a good Bard, is Lingering Composition. It's
bread
pretty
and
much what
butter.
everyone picks. Bread and butter. Action Economy. That's the third thing. That's the trifecta. If it adds action economy, then I'm a fan. What's interesting about Lingering Composition and Fortissimo Composition is that when you fail, they both require you to do performance checks. If you fail the performance check, you don't use the focus spell, but your action is wasted, which is cool. Fortissimo Composition is another one where when you do your bardic performance, which is a core ability, you spend a focus point, and it's a free action. You spend a focus point, do a performance check, and then if you're successful or critically successful, the bonus from your bardic performance goes from +1 to +2 or +3. And that's literally the best it ever gets.
Yeah.
That one focus spell is how you be a good bard.
Right. Change the math in a situation.
Yeah, it's literally the scaling mechanic of the whole class's whole bread and butter, which is, bardic singing and buffing.
Don't be a bad bard. Take this one.
Yeah, so I had to include them for the obvious reasons. But yeah, that's my bard coverage. Lore Master's Etude, it's really good inside of the class. It's an excellent, excellent thing to dip into. Another thing I want to point out is if you're playing a class that doesn't have a super powerful knowledge check ability, you can always multi-class into Lore Master, get one of those Lore Mastery style knowledge checks. That's 3 dedication feats or 3 feats, 1 dedication. I think the Lore Master also has a skill feat. So technically you could get them done in like 1 or 2 levels.
Okay.
You can go dedication at level 2 and then get the Lore Master ability and a skill feat in Lore Master. And be
I'd
done
like
by
to see
level
you
4.
build this thing and drop it on the Discord.
Okay. And that means any class, even like a fighter, can have access to this Lore Master ability, and then you multi-class into Bard. And then, that's stat heavy, but whatever.
Sure.
It's a fun build anyway.
Yeah, Thaumaturge Bard. I want to see what you do with that. Level 5.
Oh, you want to do a Thaumaturge Bard?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Level 6. Let's get that extra.
Oh, yeah. Level 6 is important.
Yeah.
Level 6 is big. All right.
Are we moving on to Cleric then?
Let's tackle the big dog right at the front, because there are like 140 focus spells for the Cleric. It's
across
crazy.
all the books. There's only like 100 and There's 131 focus spells in Player Core 1. So you're probably right, but I think that's across all the books.
It's probably across all the books.
Yeah. That's a fucking lot.
That's a lot.
That's analysis paralysis for days.
Yeah. And so let's talk about how the cleric gets their focus spells. If you're a first level cleric, you either pick to be a sword and board cleric who sucks at casting, but somehow also sucks at fighting. So no one chooses that. They choose the spellcaster.
It got better though.
Barely. But they got a third option now through an archetype, a class archetype, which is actually really cool. And one of our players in Bloodlords is playing it actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the new.
I want to hear how that plans out because my first playtest character was a battle cleric.
Yeah.
And
I
didn't hate
the
it.
battle cleric. This is like the third version where you get limited spell casting, but you get to cast Bless and Bane a bunch.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. It came out in the War of the Immortals. No, it came out in the book after that. The
what the hell came after that?
The new religion book that they came out.
Divine Mysteries.
Divine Mysteries. Yeah. So when you pick the caster cleric version, your casting gets better faster, which is important because you're a caster class ultimately, and you also get to choose a domain for free. Now, any cleric can spend a feat to choose another domain that's within their god's pantheon. So when you choose your cleric, you pick a god to worship, you're a cleric of a god, and then that god has a list of domains that it represents as part of its godliness, and those are the domains you get to pick from. Those domains have a first level ability, a first level focus spell, and then they have a fourth level focus spell?
Question mark?
Fourth level focus spell. So basically you get it at level 1 and then you get another one at like level 9 or 10. I think it might be 8. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So you get a tiny little baby focus spell and then you get a big boy focus spell. So what I did is I tried to write down the domain that's tied to these abilities, and you'll find that there's just 2 or 3 domains that are really good and all the others kind of suck. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention. Okay, so
wait, there's more.
When talking about focus spells, when actually picking the focus spell, there's 2 things to take into account. From a super munchkin min-max perspective, any spell that focuses, and this is just broadly, any spell that targets an AC is worse than a spell that targets a save.
Sure.
And that's because the spell casting progression is slower than the melee attack progression. So spellcasters get better at spellcasting at 7th level. Marshals get better at marshalling at 5th level.
Okay.
And that means, and most of the monsters are built to like not to resist physical attacks from marshals.
Sure.
But most spell attacks that target AC are don't have anything on a success. So they're kind of like a normal attack where if you fail, you just fail.
Right.
Sorry, yeah. So if you try to attack someone and hit their AC, most of those spells, if you fail to hit their AC, it does nothing. And the cool thing about spells in Pathfinder 2nd edition is that they have 4 levels of success where only critical failures or critical successes, depending on if they're saving, do nothing. Whereas successes, if your opponent succeeds a save, the spell often still does something, which feels really good.
Yep.
So that's why I have a big ick for any spell, especially a focus spell that targets AC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I learned a thing.
My number one pick from the luck domain. Here's those fortune effects. How about a little bit of luck, Eric?
I could use all the luck you can give me.
2 actions, last for a minute, target rerolls 1 saving throw, and takes the better results.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Let me hear one of yours.
I only have one of each because that was the homework assignment. So keep that silver knife handy at church because your priest is probably a werewolf. I picked Touch of the Moon. Uncommon cleric enchantment light. Domain moon. So, are we talking about our spells?
Do it.
Okay, cool. So I dig this one. When you touch the target, a symbol of the moon appears on their forehead, glowing with soft moonlight. The target glows with dim light in a 20-foot radius. It also gets a benefit based on the phase of the moon. starting with the new moon and changing all the way through the cycle. So if it's a new moon, the target receives no benefit. Weird phrasing. If it's a waxing moon, the target gets a +1 status bonus to attack rolls, +4 status bonus to damage rolls. If it's a full moon, the target gains a +1 status bonus to attack rolls, AC, and save throws. Fucking read that.
Nope. It sounds similar because it is.
Okay, I got it. And saving throws and a +4 status bonus to damage rolls.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a waning moon,
the target gets
the target gets a +1 status bonus to AC and saving throws. After this phase, return to the new moon. The reason why I like this is because my notes are down there.
Oh shit! I literally for the listeners, I've just picked up the phone to look at the spell because Eric has it open and he's like, "Robert, I need that to talk." All right.
So I'm a fan of spells that do more than just add 1s and 2s to your results. I like spells that one, help players to inform the player's knowledge base of what's in the world and what the world is about. So in a spell like this, whatever the moon is, it affects your spell casting. Not a lot of other domains and classes like that out there. Well, what happens if you're playing in a setting that doesn't have a moon? What if you're playing in a setting that doesn't have a moon and you still get access to this thing?
Oh, what are the
what am I
lore
getting it from
implications?
then?
Oh,
and that's story.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
What if you're playing in Dragonlance, Kryn, where there's 3 moons? Which one of them are you draining from?
Right.
So this is a spell that requires thought above and beyond how to crunch the numbers on my character sheet and kill a troll in 3 easy rounds.
I want you to know I saw this spell, read it, and was like, man, that's really cool. I bet Eric's going to pick this, so I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I fucking called it.
So my first bullet point is it scratches my gothic itch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, of course. Every werewolf priest should have this in my brain. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. This is also a really good way to slip a little cosmic fantasy in. So a lot of our fantasy games, is kind of like Salt of the Earth, maybe extraplanar, that sort of thing. But space and stars and nebulas and that sort of thing, that tends to be more of either a Lovecraftian thing or a sci-fi thing. And yet we have a long history, many decades, of shoehorning sci-fi into our fantasy games. So what was that one original module? There was an old first edition module. I think it's like something of the Barrier Peaks, where a spaceship crash landed. And we have Iron Gods, which is essentially the same thing.
Yeah, it's
Redux.
exactly the same thing.
It's spells like this make really weird mishmash settings more palatable for me. I can suspend my disbelief easier if I have a bunch of stuff supporting the notion that aliens are now in my D&D.
Right.
So that's a really important tool for a spell to help a player understand the world they're playing in just a little bit better. Can you imagine if you had this spell and you're not getting it from the moon, but you're getting it from Grotus?
It would have to go through a heavy reflavor, that's for sure.
Yeah, but don't tell your player it's from Grotus. Especially if your player is archetyping into Witch or something like that. Just like a slow roll that relationship between you and whatever the fuck celestial entity is that's, letting you into its domain. And then make that a part of the story. Otherwise, it's just words
Grotus
on your character sheet.
is the giant moon death god.
He's the moon that's going to be there till the end of days.
Right.
The end is nigh.
Yeah.
So
he's the depressed cleric from
Kingmaker.
From Kingmaker, yeah.
Okay, I suppose I'll go another day.
Oh my god.
Maybe today the day will end.
Oh my god.
He's the Eeyore of the D&D
He
world.
really is. He's the Pathfinder Eeyore.
Yeah. So I kind of just love the idea of spells being dynamic and not static.
Mm-hmm.
If I cast a magic missile 100 times across a 30-day period, I'm going to get the same fucking results, plus or minus 1d4. If I do this, it depends on what time I do it. It depends on when in the calendar year I do it, so on and so forth. So it's just that extra level of depth to choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I got for Cleric.
I love it. I'm just going to burn through mine because there's a lot, and I picked a lot. I'm probably not going to talk about all of them.
Holy shit.
Dude, there's a lot. Like, there's a lot. I don't know what to tell you. So I'm just going to rip through them. Healing domain, healer's blessing, 1 action, makes your healing even better. Double down on that extra healing. Scholarly recollection. Oh, hello, lore master Etude. So nice to see you again. But better, but worse, because you can't use lore for anything unless you're a lore master. Maybe you should multi-class. Tyranny, Touch of Obedience, Stupefied 1 or 2 until the end of the next turn for 1 action is a wombo combo waiting to happen. So if you want to play a hard wisdom based or a will save targeting cleric, pick up the Tyranno domain. 4th levels. Okay, those are all my first levels. 4th level, Disperse into Air. Dude,
That's a fun one.
another one you guys will be seeing is I love focus spells or spells in general. If you're a caster and you're squishy, you should have things in your back pocket to escape from danger.
Mm-hmm.
So I favor a lot of focus spells on this list that use reactions to avoid danger. And this reminds me of the what vampires do in classic D&D where they turn into mist and run away.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, reaction, turn into a mist and then get out of there. Gonna skip that one. Know the enemy. More advantage while rolling knowledge checks is just even better. This time you get the check as a reaction instead of a regular action. And you get advantage, which is great. Going back to the luck domain, Lucky Break. More fortune effects. Now it's a reaction that targets you failing a saving throw, which is even better. Again, as a spellcaster, I like focusing on things that keep me alive because my spells are so powerful. I don't really need to worry about that. I need to worry about not dying. A la Dreg.
Because you're squishy.
Because I've learned one too many times from playing one too many wizards.
Always be frontlining.
Here's a really good one. Malignant Sustenance. Fast healing 7 is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think this was written.
That is pretty bonkers.
Yeah. I think this was written specifically to be put on undead summons, which makes a little more sense from a balance perspective. But Book of the Dead exists.
Mm-hmm.
And it specifically just says undead target. So you can put this on your friends, and then it's very good. It's probably the best on the list. Mystic Beacon. Mystic Beacon is really interesting. It basically allows your friends to cast spells at a higher spell rank, +1 spell rank. There are some spells that have breakpoints where they don't do anything until it's heightened 4th, and then it's like super good.
Comes online.
So this is a fun way and powerful way to kind of cheat some heightening on spells. Let's see here. Tempt Fate. Tempt Fate. Okay, this one's okay. So I wrote here Tempt Fate. This has got to be my favorite, not because it's good, but because I would troll Eric with it all the time. So what Tempt Fate does, it's a reaction, and it's basically whenever your friend does something that he has to roll for, they get a +2 bonus to that check. I think it's actually only skill checks, but they get a +2 bonus to that check. But they can't succeed or fail. They can only critically succeed or critically fail.
Nice.
Yeah. I love that. Traveler's Transit, 5 minutes, no sustain, fly by 9th level is pretty decent for a focus spell. This basically means you have infinite flight for most of forever. And then Zeal for Battle. They really save the best for alphabetical last. This basically allows you and a friendly to, as a reaction at the beginning of combat, you get advantage on your initiative checks. And I'm a big fan of Trent Monk's guides going all the way back to 1st edition.
Sure.
Trent Monk really laid the groundwork for what constitutes good and bad combat tactics in a game of Pathfinder or in a game of TTRPGs, really, at least for me. And one of the things he always, the first guide he ever put out was Trent Monk's Guide to Wizards. And he had this whole part on the very beginning of that guide was reframing the understanding of how wizards are supposed to fight. Because in Pathfinder and most TTRPGs, the more damage you do to someone doesn't reduce their ability to fight.
Right.
They only stop fighting at 0 HP. So as a wizard or a spellcaster, more broadly, your goal is to control the battlefield.
Right.
And to reduce your opponent's action economy. Because action economy can be reduced. Whereas the only way for a fighter to reduce your action economy, as I like to say, is to bring them down to 0 hit points.
Right.
So because of that, getting your punch in before your opponent can be the pivotal moment in the fight. Just like in Warhammer or war games, the person who goes first gets to throw the first punch. And if you throw the first punch, now your opponent has less resources to punch back with. And if you start on a forward step, you can continue on a forward step.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's really important that you always go first in a fight. Going first has a huge advantage, especially for a spellcaster that can drop a stinking cloud or something like that right before your opponents can ever even act.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why this zeal for battle, allowing you to reroll your initiative and a friend's initiative for one focus point, is so powerful. That basically means every fight, you and a friendly are rerolling their initiative and taking the better, which is just incredible. Okay, I'm done with Cleric. I know I talked too long, but there's just a lot of spells to cover. And
there's a lot.
I covered maybe 10 of them out of 140?
131, I think.
Something like that. So, yeah.
I'm wondering if I deleted a bunch of information here. What's next? Ranger?
Next up is the Druid.
Can I steal that book? Because I think I deleted some of my notes on accident.
Well, I'm going to talk about the Druid.
Yeah, you do that.
What's cool about the Druid is it actually doesn't have a lot of options as far as focus spells go.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you, the options it does have are very good. I will say I'm kind of disappointed. I always have been disappointed with the focus spells from the Druids have like their own domains over nature. There's like animal. It's like you're basically a subclass. Well, there's a series of subclasses that allow you to focus on an element like fire or lightning. You know, these naturally occurring kind of like elements in nature.
Mm-hmm.
They've always been very lackluster to me, and you'll notice I didn't pick any of them here. So going in alphabetical order from top to bottom, my first pick is Cornucopia. This is a good berry as a focus spell. The important thing here is that your party and I'm talking from a purely optimizing a party perspective, you want to have a non-medicine check healing from a focus point as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can always have a couple, like a half an hour of downtime between fights, that means you should start every fight at full HP first, because that's going to give you the highest chance of succeeding at the next fight.
Yeah.
So having a focus point ability, like a focus point spell that heals your party, the lay on hands from the champion, Cornucopia from the Druid, is really important in keeping your party topped up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want me to keep going, Eric?
No, I found mine actually. The Druid entry was boring for me.
Yep.
Because it's exactly what you expect. They're nature wizards, and the selection is exactly what you expect, with one exception.
Yeah.
One thing the Druid can do that the Druid does that's fun, is changing your form.
Oh my God, Eric's stealing my top pick.
Hey, you.
This is crazy. All right, Wax Poetic King.
Untamed form and untamed shift. You just being able to go from Radagast the Brown to a Jackrabbit that can have a speed of 40.
Yep.
That's the Druid power fantasy.
Yep.
And regardless of what kind of Druid you are, if you're a Storm Druid, do it for like an air, or, if you're a Druid of the Waves, do it for a water critter. You can keep the theme regardless of how you do this. Again, going back to the psychic and wizard thing, a magic missile is a magic missile is a magic missile. But this one spell can let you cross many different forms and flavors and keep things fresh from session to session. And you can even have your favorite, the one you're known for.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
That's mine.
Dude, okay, I got to wax poetic a little more about this, because it's just...
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so Untamed Form is the wild shape, is the effective wild shape from 5th edition and D&D games of past.
One we're all familiar with.
Druids have always been the most powerful class since 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they're full spellcasters that have access to wild shaping. And oftentimes wild shaping allows you to ignore your physical stats during point buy selection and choose only mental stats, and then wild shape as much as you want. That is still true in Pathfinder. The only difference here is you can't cast spells while wild shaped in Pathfinder 2nd edition.
Right. That was a big deal for a lot of people when it first came out.
Who cares? It doesn't matter, because wild shaping is, because of the way the focus spell works, basically what it says. And actually I helped Eric make this specific build.
Yep, this is my Kingmaker character.
It's a fighter dual classed into Druid. The way it reads, is basically, and I've done the math. You can find it on the Discord. I've posted it. If you want to go to the Discord, check out the Doobly Doo.
Do it.
I posted the math on it. I went like down a serious rabbit hole. The TLDR is when you cast this spell, originally from levels like 1 and 2, it only gives you pest form, which sucks. But then it gives you animal form. And because it's a focus spell, it scales with your level, regardless of how many levels of Druid you have. You know, if you're a fighter and you take this, it still scales with your level. So the animal form also scales with its own level, so you get more and more powerful over time. What's important here is that if your attack bonus, your total attack bonus is higher than the attack bonus of the creature of the stats it gives you in the spell, you get your attack bonus +2, which is really powerful when paired with the fighter. It means you're hitting and critting a lot. The damage is not as high as it could be if you were a fighter with just a cool weapon and stuff like that, but it doesn't
By design.
it doesn't lag too far behind, actually. It's like just
It's close enough.
marginally worse. So, and also the versatility of movement and speeds and attack types. You know, like, oh, the construct has resistance 20 to slashing and piercing, but it's weak against bludgeoning. Okay, I turn into a gorilla and beat it with my fist.
Right.
Done.
I am a damage type.
Exactly. I am a damage type. The versatility is out the wing wang.
Yeah.
And
The wing wang.
the wing wang. It just allows a bunch of really fun and interesting builds, especially as a multi-class, because you get this, it's a first level feat. So 2 feats, a dedication feat and one Druid feat, and you're in. You have it.
Right.
And that's all you really need from levels 1 to level 14.
Yeah.
Until it stops scaling.
Yeah, 100%. I want to push back on one thing you said about pest form being sucky. You mentioned that you like focus spells for utility reasons to get you back to safety and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Being able to turn into a termite and like scurry into a crack, you just exited combat. Turn into a hornet and then fly above the fray. Yeah. You escape the combat.
The utility of pest form is incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not like I'm going to take away your hit points kind of a thing, but it does the other thing.
Yeah.
And being able to choose between those two is it's everything. It's
agree.
just it's a highly flexible, it's a Swiss Army knife, I think, of classes.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so powerful, just generally speaking. I also really loved Untamed Shift, the other one you chose.
Yeah.
I wrote here, well, not as good as Untamed Form. This would be an awesome dip for any martial class, especially because of the access to fly speed or reach. So originally, I think are you looking at it right now? Yeah. You just read it off for me. The first level version of it gives you reach as one of the options, and then when you heighten it later, I believe you get fly speed.
2 different effects from the list. Untamed Claws leaves a terrible ragged wounds, but also deals 2d6 persistent bleed damage on a hit.
Oh, that's good too.
Untamed Jaws are envenomed, also dealing 2d6 persistent poison damage on a hit. That's heightened 6.
Got it. Where's the fly speed?
Which one are we looking at here? Soaring Shape?
Oh, so
use 2 actions and you get a 3 fly speed, 30 fly speed.
Okay, so right out of the box, no heightening needed, you get a fly speed.
Yeah.
That is strong. If you're playing a Druid, you're probably not picking you could pick this, but why wouldn't you take Untamed Form? But if you're dipping into this, Bob's your uncle. You know what I mean? Like to pick any cool class that's a martial. And if you want to theme it lycanthropy, if you want to theme it animal, if you want to theme it bestial, if you want to theme it however you want, or if it already has that theme and you want to double down on that theme, dude, giving yourself reach, giving yourself fly when you need it, as you need it. Again, it's getting back to the fact that this is a focus spell, so you're stuck with it. So it having versatility means it has a lot more power.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also, again, that Druid power fantasy. It centers the theming around your character. And also, as a side note, I just learned this weekend where Bob's Your Uncle came from.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A bunch of years ago, and during the way back, there was a politician who was the nephew or grandson or something of another guy who had a lot of power. So when people would say Bob's your uncle, it's a nepotism jab.
Oh,
so it's a negative thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've been hearing you say it for so long, and I just didn't understand the origins of the phrase. So
yeah, I guess I didn't. I mean, growing up,
somebody gave me a well actually this weekend.
Yeah, we misuse terms like that all the time.
Oh, we all do. Yeah.
But like back home in Florida, Bob's your uncle was like
and there you go.
And there you
Voila.
go. There it is.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a.
It's that, but it's got that nepotism kind of like snarky side eye.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
It's a side eye expression.
Okay, gotcha. Sweet. So
which makes me love it more.
Those are my druid claims.
Should we go fast forward to the R in the alphabet, or is there one between?
Ranger.
Oh, no,
I
Ranger?
just have Ranger. We're going to Ranger.
Warden spells. Give me yours first.
So it's really important to note that all of the things we've talked about so far, the Bard, the Cleric, and the Druid, they get their focus spells from class abilities. They're basically handed them, and they don't have to choose to take them otherwise. The Ranger's Warden spells are different. Ranger Warden spells are chosen instead of a feat, basically. So you can literally advance your animal companion or get one of these focus spells. And this is important. This is important because it allows us to understand that not all focus spells are created equal.
Right.
I
think monks have the same conversation going on, don't they?
Exactly. So like they are the power of the focus spells and the ranks are largely tailored to the class that gets them and when they want this kind of ability to come online for that class. Which then roughly ties it to other spells more generally, but you can't compare a level 4 focus spell of the Ranger to a level 4 focus spell of the Druid or Bard. It truly is apples to oranges, and I just want to impress upon that idea. So I covered that bullet point. I want to just reiterate again. So when we talk about these focus spells, we have to compare them not only to the other focus spells you could choose from, but also from the feats that you could choose instead of them.
Sure.
That's my point.
Yeah.
I'll talk about the first one because I think it's an interesting conversation piece. I think you'll appreciate this, and then you can give us yours. So I'm just not like talking back to back the whole time. Keen smell.
Yep.
I think getting scent is underrated. I've seen it used in games before by my friend Natalie, and smelling what's next to smelling what's in the next room by sniffing underneath the door is like a pretty cool thing. You know, it allows you to sense things because humans don't have very good senses of smell. I mean, I kind of have a very good sense of smell for a human, and it's not very good. Like sometimes I'll walk into a room and be like, I'll smell something in a room and I'll ask a question like, was someone here?
It's
or
almost
blah, blah,
like
blah.
it's an imprecise sense.
Exactly. But we don't even have like in the game, humans don't have scent as imprecise.
Yeah, humans don't. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And my point is having it as an imprecise sense in the game, once you start realizing it's everywhere and you can use it all the time, it becomes really powerful and really interesting.
It's the same thing that we've been talking about with Phantasmal Killer for 30 years. It's some of these spells, some of these abilities are only as strong as your imagination.
Yes.
Is your ability to use it. You know, how do you use a screwdriver? Well, you use it to screw a screw. Yeah, but you can use it to shank a guy. I mean, how do you use a screwdriver? You're limited by your imagination. Really.
I think the biggest example of this is all of the illusion spells.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, those are not beginner friendly spells.
Yeah, absolutely not.
But where was I going to go with that? Keen senses or sensory input of any kind in the game, as a player, I don't find it exciting unless the GM is using it to help me understand the setting or help me understand a place I've already been before in a new light.
What excites me is flipping that script. What excites me is the player using it in ways that the DM didn't even plan for. And it allows them to like understand the situation in a very unique way.
Which is cool if the next time that happens, the GM has learned something and leans into it. But if the GM has to every single time, walk into a room and go, that's odd.
Right.
You know, if the player is doing that's, you know, the keen senses conversation for the investigator. It's sort of like, GM, just, you know what I'm looking for. You understand my character because we built him together. Give me some olfactory sensory details as a part of your room description as we go in without me having to say, I sniff a butt crack.
Yeah. Okay.
Just tell me what the butt crack smells like before I have to ask. Is that so much to ask?
There's a little bit of I think a lot of DMs would like players to have the initiative and give them the option to ask for it every time because that's fun for a lot of players.
Yeah, absolutely.
But have something, I think what you're saying is have something prepared for when you know they ask.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or just beat him to the punch. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that doesn't want to make the decision where we eat for dinner every single night. I'd like to know that you guys have an opinion. If I have to keep making that decision, I just, why does it always have to be me that initiates?
See,
That's kind of in my D&D
Yeah,
head.
yeah.
I live there. You know, I want the reciprocity
I love
of
that.
engagement.
I love that because I'm the control freak who gives you 3 options to eat every night. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, these are the places I want to go. Pick one.
Yeah. I just, this world can't just be about me. So
Yeah, absolutely.
especially when we're doing like a shared venture, like a collaborative storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
If one person is doing all the collaborating, it becomes an imbalanced experience, I think.
Absolutely.
And some people, they're there for it. They just want to be wallflowers and react to everything. That's totally fine, and that's outside the scope of my point.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you had people who are like, are we doing this together? Okay, cool. We know each other's characters, our NPCs. We know how we react to things. This isn't a convention game. We're in a campaign together. My character only looks down and never looks up. He's constantly tripping over his own feet. So things happening up here aren't exactly on his radar. Don't wait for me to say I look up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a personal preference thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You have more rangery things?
Oh, I do. But you go ahead and cut through the butter real quick. And
Talk to me, Cortana. What do you see? There's something weird about ranger feats and the extrasensory perception adjacent things they get that put me squarely in the realm of the science fiction tropes.
Huh.
So this one in particular, called Hunter's Vision.
Hunter's Vision.
It's basically a HUD.
Yep.
It's a heads-up display. And we have it in Halo. We have it in every science fiction military game you're ever going to find out there. And Rangers have it.
Which is
okay,
kinda
that's
cool.
fine, though, because I love Assassin's Creed. So if you can have it in historical, context, why not have it in D&D? Okay, I totally get that. But this is 100% a sci-fi thing for me, and it pulls me out of my power fantasy unless I hyper build around the idea of extrasensory perceptions of this nature. I can't get Halo out of my head. I can't get science fiction military out of my head when I look at stuff like this, unless we're literally changing into another creature like a druid can. That's an exception.
What's
for me.
interesting here is one of the things we forgot to mention about the keen smell focus spell is that its other effect is the fact that when you hunt your prey, the hunted prey can't be undetected if it's within your smell range.
Okay.
So like the idea is that when you're hunting,
That's interesting.
when your hunted target, because that's the whole mechanic that rangers have, is they hunt a certain target and they get cool attacks. So they can always smell them. It's like a dog who like a bloodhound that locks in on one scent and follows that one scent. And this to me is just like an extrapolation of that idea.
Yeah.
And I can see where you're coming from,
Yeah.
like building on it and being. This is like the
making
guy
that your
who,
thing.
the guy who becomes the bloodhound. That's kind of your whole thing.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense.
And that puts us into comic book superhero territory where Wolverine is known for his thing. Cyclops is known for his thing. Magneto is known for his thing. What do you know Superman for?
Being good at everything.
If you had 100 Supermans lined up in a row, what would 100 of them be good at?
Everything.
It's the same fucking character.
Right.
Soups. Wolvie is Wolvie. And these HUD type characters in fantasy, I don't know how to kick that out of my head. So that's that. One positive thing, because I don't want to just shit on this thing here. Again, back to the idea of shoehorning sci-fi tropes into fantasy. The Barrier Peaks, Iron Gods as a setting. How do you have like swords and lasers not just be goofy, stupid, in our mind movies? Stuff like this. Magical interpretations of sci-fi tropes as the actual honest-to-God literal sci-fi show up in your fantasy setting. That's how you do it. You take a magical ability and you take a sci-fi ability, you reflavor it in magic to get something like this, and that helps you inform the world building.
It reminds me of that saying that I'm definitely going to butcher, so I'm just going to attempt it. Where like when science fiction is so advanced, everything looks like magic. It might as well be.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this is kind of like the flip of that.
Kind of, yeah.
Where you take the, like, as you said, the heads up display and you magicify it.
Right.
And it's like, well, if the science fiction people can do it, why can't the magic people do it?
I mean, you can, but there's a price.
Yes.
And you can do it well. You can do it jankily. You can do it with a sledgehammer. Or you can do it with a surgical precision.
Right.
So yeah, it just your taste may vary, as they say. That's, I think, all I have on that. It's super sci-fi, but that can be good if that's the game you're playing in, and you can use this as a tool to make that pill go down easier.
Right.
And it can't just be the only one. The heads-up display. What else is in sci-fi? Well, grenades. Well, alchemists have bombs. Okay, good. Just get some one-for-ones in there, and then fantasy it up. And then when the spaceship shows up, it's not going to feel as awkward or disjointed or jarring, I think, for my money.
That's a really good point. My other spells are animal feature. This one is really bad at the level they give it to you. The bonuses are just worse versions of the Druid one we just read. But again, we can't compare across. Focus spells don't cross state lines after all. But when you heighten it to its like 4th rank, because this starts off as a third rank focus spell, I believe. When you heighten it to 4th rank, then you get a fly speed. And now we're talking, because now we can fly every fight. If we're a martial ranger, we can fly up to the opponents that are already flying. If we're a ranged ranger, we can fly up and shoot down and not get attacked in melee unless your opponent has flying. So getting fly speed eventually is pretty cool. I would just like not take this. I would pick up that feat later when I get the fly speed, basically.
I think it would depend for me, because there's 6 options here, and I don't know if if there are more options elsewhere in other books for this.
No. One spell is one spell. Read through them.
Okay, yeah. So cat's eyes, you gain low light vision. So if you don't have it, now you get it for a minute. Claws, you get a claw attack, big whoop. Jaws, you get a jaw attack, big whoop. But
you're a martial.
You're martial, and you often dual weapons. So having that bite when you need it. If you're bound, you can still bite with your teeth. There's some flexibility there. At heightened, you have mobility and perception options. Yeah. You can swim better. You can fly better, meaning before you couldn't at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And you gain dark vision.
Yeah.
So if I'm playing a game where I'm there's some water stuff going on, there's some spelunking stuff going on, dark catacombs. There's some I'm going to need to move faster. What was the other one I said? Sometimes I'm going to have to, my arms are going to be cut off sometimes, and I'll have to re-sew them back on other times.
Right.
So I still need to be able to do things. It creates a flexibility, and it's not a one-for-one spell. It's not a magic missile that only does magic missile. It's what do I want this one focus spell to do today, right now, in this moment?
Yeah, and my point is like, I love the utility, but only until it gives me fly speed.
Yeah.
Like I pick up this ability.
If it's not maxable, it don't count.
Well, the thing is, I don't. It's a 3rd level focus spell, right? I believe it is.
Where the hell did it go?
You just had it.
2, yeah.
2, second rank. Yeah. So you're trading a 4th level fighter feat for it, right?
Ranger feat.
When you look at the ranger. When you look at the 4th level ranger feats, I think the reason I came to this conclusion is because I would rather trade an 8th level ranger spell for the ability to fly at that moment, rather than trade one of my 4th level ranger feats for the shitty versions of the spell.
That's definitely a function over form argument, and I totally get it. It's if you're playing a tournament game, I think I would even say yes 10 out of 10 times.
All right, Canopy Crawler. It's the same thing, except it gives you a climb speed, which was missing from that last one. Weird. But I like to say never underestimate climb speeds. I have handedly gotten through hazards and challenges in stories by thinking creatively and just climbing on shit when people didn't anticipate you to climb on shit.
What are you talking about?
It's called Canopy Crawler. It might not be in the book, Eric. It might be one of those. Oh,
you picked it. Okay, yeah. This is your cheater spell.
Yeah, my cheater spell. Soothing Mist. This is a healing option, a ranged healing option. Probably another cheater spell. Is it good? No. You shouldn't be the one. You shouldn't be the one healing if you're a ranger and you're doing martial stuff. But if your party, for whatever reason, doesn't have lost that dice. If your party, for whatever reason, doesn't have the focus spell that heals the party in between fights, this is an option to pick it up. And then Master Warden spells. Yeah. There's one that lets you teleport. Teleport is OP.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. I
It's
wasn't
called
super
terrain transposition. It basically lets you teleport when you're in nature.
For me, I keep coming back to the idea that focus spells are for flavor and class spells are for function. So the form spells are what my lists are all about.
Yeah.
And, you know, class spells would be different.
Totally. But yeah, that's my ranger.
If you want to go woo-woo, save it for focus.
Exactly. That's my ranger spell.
Are we on to the witchy witch?
The witch.
The witch.
So, believe it or not, the witch focus spells kind of poo-poo caca, in my opinion.
Which sucks, because that was your favorite class in first edition, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or one of them?
Yeah, it was one of my favorite classes for first edition. I really liked it, but it's okay because the few... so they completely redesigned the witch in second edition. The witch is all about spells that need to be sustained. The witch has an interesting design space because it's got a bunch of debuff spells. It's got a bunch of save or suck spells. All of them need to be sustained all of the time. So what do? They give you focus spells like Cackle that let you sustain for free for one focus point. Or other parts of the class give you a lot of one action hex cantrips where you can sustain a spell, move, and still do something, which is cast an hex cantrip. So, witches are interesting because they break up action economy in ways that other spellcasters don't get to interact with in the same way. And I think that's cool. But for that reason, I only ended up on 2 focus spells that I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
The way witches get focus spells is through lessons, which is a feat. So again, getting back to Eric's point of focus spells are kind of like, focus spells are normally the core competency of a class's, they can be the core competency of a class's flavor. I would argue in the case of the witch, they are not the core competency. They're just like an extra bonus nice to have, because all of the focus spells you get are kind of generalized lessons that you get from your patron, but they're not tied to the patron in any way. The hex cantrips are, the hex abilities are, which is cool. So in that sense, they're kind of just more spells you get to cast every fight. The 2 I picked are Cackle, of course, because there's a bunch of bread and butter. There's a bunch of sustaining that goes on with the witch, like I said. So that's obvious.
It occurs to me that we should start doing these lists going forward where we have 2, the form answer and the function answer.
The form and function answer.
Yeah, the function answer, like this is the powerful one, and I want my character to do powerful things. And the other one is, okay, guys, this is cool. It may not be the most optimal, but get giddy with me for a moment.
Okay, I like that. And then life boost. So the thing with life boost is that it's 4 rounds, and it gives your target fast healing 2. Fast healing 2 is amazing because of action economy. So like I said before, this is a class that plays with action economy unlike any other spellcaster. Being able to heal your friends with fast healing 2 means if they go down, if they become unconscious, at the beginning of the next turn, they don't even need to worry about death saves. They have fast healing 2 for 4 rounds. So if you're playing with someone who's constantly playing a fighter and for whatever reason goes down all the time, maybe slap a fast healing on that motherfucker at the beginning of every combat, just in case.
Yep.
And is it going to do a lot of healing? Well, kind of. It'll scale with, like it scales every +1, right? Every heighten.
Maggie Brown, if you're out there, can you do that for this goblin?
This goblin salvaging rites?
Yeah, in the glasswork scene we're about to stumble into. That would be super. Thank you.
But what's really powerful is that picks them up every round. So not everyone's having to spend an action on a healing spell, bringing them up. They just get up automatically.
Right.
They don't literally get up, but they wake up from being unconscious. That's it. That's my witch picks.
All right. Cackle is kind of the no-brainer.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just being able to sustain a spell for a free action. That's cool. But what's my actual pick? Patron's Puppet. I didn't really like a lot of the spells in the witch repertoire. They just didn't really get me.
Yeah.
I've seen a bunch of really cool ones since then. Other books that have come out after this. But Patron's Puppet is cool. I know, right? Always start with the vanilla options, and then you get the fun stuff later.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Patron's Puppet, it basically says, hey, Baba Yaga, can you take control of my little spider and make it do things?
Yeah.
And she does. It's almost like summoning a extraplanar creature with a name to it. You know, there's a lot of lore implications for a player character invoking a name and then having that thing interact and do something here.
I didn't just summon a demon. I summoned Albert, the demon.
Right.
And he knows where I live.
And Albert, the demon, infesting your little, your woodchuck, your beaver.
Yeah, my beaver.
Beaver comes up to you, goes slap, slap, slap with his tail on the flagstones, and takes his little teeth and starts carving into the dirt in front of you. Stop summoning me.
Yeah.
Stop calling. I'm going to block your prayers. Just the fun roleplay interactions between whatever the fuck this thing is that's granting you powers and however they're granting you powers. I really dig that. And this also sort of plays into that really fun play space I like to be in, like our Kingmaker game, where my fighter was a fighter, was a fighter, was a fighter. That's what he knows. That's his identity. The Druid stuff was something that happened to him, almost like he failed a will save and gained an archetype. That's
almost
how I
like
played
he
it.
was turned into a werewolf.
Yeah. But in this one, all the face shit, I don't want control over. That's for the GM. For this particular ability, you take my familiar and do things with it. It's the same kind of.
That was so challenging for me.
Was that the first time you've ever had something like that?
Yeah, dude, that was weird. I didn't want to make you transform like every fight because I figured it'd be too.
I was fully expecting it and would have been okay with it.
Oh, okay.
But as long as there's a reason for it, that's all I care about.
That's the thing. Like I will say the times I did make you transform, I thought they were like appropriate.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I thought they were like, you know, he gets
that alligator transformation outside the Uruxi enclave.
Cool.
Fucking spot on, and I'll remember that to the end of my days because I murdered some people that day.
Yeah, that was crazy. It's like, oh shit.
Twist and roll, twist and roll. Everybody get away from here.
Yeah.
So those kind of moments are really fun. You know, a lot of people bitch and complain and moan about, you know, never take away your player's agency. Or do, because some of us enjoy being submissive sometimes. You know, some of us enjoy being, you know, the dominator sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just the idea of it's a consent thing. It's a session zero thing.
Totally.
Like, do you want 100% control over all of your characters' agency, whether it's building or acting within the story or what happens to them or where they go? Or do you want a percentage of that? What can I play with as a GM or as a player? GM, what can I play with as a player?
Right.
Can I say that an NPC does a certain thing? If we both trust I'm not going to wreck your story. These kinds of feats and abilities and spells and effects, they dabble in that sort of shared vulnerability relationship between the player and the GM, and the player and other players, and the GM and all the players together. So it's a cool little like psychological exercise in shared narrative building.
I love that. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah. Awesome. So one more class left and we're done.
Fuck, I thought we were done. What comes after W?
Wizard? The other W.
God damn it.
I know, it's W-I-Z.
I closed the book.
W-I-Z. So my first pick here at level 1 is Diviner's Sight. Roll a dice for a save or a skill check and replace before the end of next turn. It's just really good. I mean, again, it's kind of like a fortune effect, except in this case, you're rolling the dice beforehand. So maybe you waste a focus spell rolling a natural 1 on a dice. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you get a 20. But what I like about it is kind of like guaranteed number. It's that it's giving that investigator class ability to other classes.
You keep using the I word.
The I word. I love that. I actually skipped over another focus spell earlier. I think it was the Naga Cleric domain. But it was really bizarre, and I skipped it because it was really complicated, and I didn't know how good it actually was.
The Naga Cleric domain?
Yeah.
Is that in Player Core 1?
I don't know where it is.
I don't think
Probably
so.
not.
I think that came out of the Impossible Lands, didn't it?
What it does is it basically lets an ally roll a dice at the beginning of their turn, and they can use that dice in place of a skill check or something like that. But then, and they get this ability for like a minute. But if they don't use the dice they rolled previously the last turn, the spell ends. But if they do use the dice, every time they use the dice, you get +1 and then +2 better at the check you use the dice for. Which is fucking bizarre. It's almost like I want to make an entire character around that ability to utilize that ability, or like have two characters work together in making something that can maximize the effectiveness. That's this one really weird spell that I love, you know.
That's fabulous.
But yeah, anyway. So Diviner's Sight lets you roll a dice and know what's going to happen before it happens, and you can choose to use it or not, but it's only for a skill or a save. So another thing here is like there is a lot of skills that have the attack trait, which you could totally use them for, like trip and grapple and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, or deception, like if you have a cool rogue who always does cool, like feint and stuff like that in their fights to get advantage, or to get like, flat-footed or whatever, then you could give it to them and they can, critically succeed at one of those things. And a lot of times the critical successes on those cool class-based skill checks are like really powerful.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
Feel good moments. So I think I am a closet furry.
Interesting.
Because I'm starting to notice a pattern in my choices here.
If you want, Eric.
Protean form. I like scramble body.
Scramble body.
No. I'm sorry. I read the wrong one. Shifting form.
Okay. Scramble body's hilarious though. You should read Scramble Body.
It is. Yeah. Because I think we basically made that for one of our Patreon offerings.
We did. Yeah.
So
fuck your organs in particular.
Yeah. So shifting form, 1 action, focus 4, duration a minute, concentrate, focus, morph, wizard. You change your body to better suit the moment. You gain one of the following abilities of your choice. You can dismiss a spell. You can get a 20-foot status bonus to your speed. You can gain a climb or swim speed equal to half your speed. You gain dark vision. You can gain a pair of claws. They're agile, finesse, unarmed, 1d8 slashing.
Who cares? You're a caster.
Right.
But the speed boost is actually pretty decent.
And you can gain scent 60 feet imprecise. The reason why I like that, besides being, again, Swiss Army knife utility, useful for multiple situations, not a one-trick pony. 2 things. 1, I'm a bit of a vampire nerd, and I like Gangrel in the discipline of Protean, where you can just basically shapeshift on the plasmic level and become another thing. We're in the Druid shape-changing territory, wild shaping. It's kind of part of the fantasy, power fantasy. In sci-fi, you'll have like an entire alien ancestry or race that does that. That's like...
There's one in Starfinder.
Yeah, there is, right. And it's not just one of them. It's the whole fucking group.
Yeah.
That's a sci-fi thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that in fantasy, that's this. And I really dig that. So it also jives
magic
for like the wizard thing, I'm more than I appear. Don't make a wizard angry because you're tasty with ketchup, whatever that expression is.
What?
That might have been a dragon. I don't know.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, don't make dragons angry because they are quick-tempered and you are crunchy and taste good with ketchup. I don't know. Somebody correct me. It's funnier when you read it. But yeah, like a wizard walks into the room. If you read a scene like that, if you watch a scene like that, if you read a comic book like that, it's always momentous. In D&D, it's banal. It's just another thing.
At least in Pathfinder.
Not only that, but it's not a threat.
Yeah.
Because we know wizards are squishy. That's kind of the thing. So we treat them accordingly. But you don't do that in Lord of the fucking Rings. You don't do that in any other actual story where wizards are treated with that enigmatic mystery. What the hell can this guy do? I'm a little afraid. I'm going to watch my P's and Q's around this person. So being able to kind of like shift yourself to do something other than what people expect you to do. I mean, claws are pretty easy to see, but you can hide those. Just you look like a man. Now you're not a man.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're walking normal, and then boom, it's like you put a pair of speed boots on. Just those micro moments of a power fantasy that don't go on for all day at a time, 10 minutes at a time, not at all ever. Get away from the extremes and give us options for punctuated moments of power fantasy. That just gets me a lot more than I can spam this fucking thing all day long and nobody's surprised when I do it once. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's my choice for wizard. There's a lot more practical, better, more powerful uses, but that one screams wizard.
Okay.
More so than any other class. Again, focus spells are about the class and wizards are about mystery, enigma, knowing things that others do not. We're all fucking smart. We all have high intelligences. So we just know the world better than you do, plus or minus the wisdom characters. And having feat selections and focus spell selections and actual spell selections that kind of feed into that mystery. That's what this does, and a lot of the other ones don't.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked it.
Absolutely.
What else?
Piggybacking off of the Viner's site roll, how we could like reroll athletics checks and stuff like that.
Sure.
Physical boost gives you a +2 status bonus to athletics checks. That includes things like trip and grapple. It's a really good for a first level spell because +2 to something at first level is powerful. And then protective wards.
Yeah, only fighters get that.
Yeah. Protective wards is really good. It's like a 5-foot radius around you, and everyone around you and you gets a +1 bonus to AC. I thought that was kind of interesting, like because we imagine wizards being back of the line fighters, casters, but what if they're right behind the war wizard is right behind the paladin or the fighter with their shield, and he's like, they're acting as a unit. They're more tactical. They're more gritty. You know what I mean? I love
that scenario of military fantasy that I've always loved.
Me too.
And in second edition D&D, I loved playing. I forgot what it was called. It's been so long, like the battle mage or something like that, where they're basically a fighter mage, and you don't really have those kind of options viably.
We do now in Pathfinder because they created the battle mage school. Yeah, and that's kind of the point here. You know what I mean?
Wow, I need water.
Yeah, you got that big old water bottle. I made sure to have him remove his phone number and his.
I was thinking, how cool would it be if you like just you just have your name and a fake number on here, and the number goes to somebody that you really want to stick it to. So if there's a governor in your state with a particular number,
that might be illegal. You might be. I don't know. Anyway, so
I didn't say anything.
It's on tape, Eric. Fourth level, we're just going to blow through them because we're at the end of the bod. Dimensional steps, teleport as OP.
Yeah.
How hard is that? Not hard at all. Okay, this one is kind of funny. I noticed that they literally just renamed 2 different focus spells.
Okay.
Completely just renamed them and gave them to a different class. And I thought that was odd. One of them that they renamed is Dread Aura. This is way better than it has any right to be. Okay. So Dread Aura, 30-foot aura, no save, frightened 1.
The fuck? Who had that before? Champion?
No. Like, my point, what I was trying to say is there's another version of this focus spell in the list that was like put into an expansionary book. We don't call them splat books anymore. But one of them is Pray for Death. Pray for Death includes a Red Mantis Assassin wizard school, which I thought was fucking rad, by the way.
Right, yeah.
And this is like one of those spells, basically.
Okay.
But they took the exact same spell effect and just renamed it to something else.
What level is it?
They did it twice. This is a 4th level.
Oh, okay.
So you get this at like 8th level.
Okay.
8th level? 9th level? One of the two. So Dread Aura is just really good. It's kind of weird how bad the first level focus spells are and how good a lot of these 4th levels focus spells are. Invisibility Cloak. Okay, this is. I don't want to belabor this anymore, but this again.
One more time with feeling.
This really nails down on the differences between focus spells and normal spells. So Invisibility Cloak is quite literally you cast invisibility. But actually worse because it has restrictions. So it says it's a 4th level focus spell. I mean, you get this like 8th or 9th level, and it says you cast 2nd rank invisibility with all the same restrictions. But this focus spell only lasts for 1 minute, whereas invisibility lasts for 5 or 10 minutes.
Sure.
But you can cast this 1, 2, or 3 times every single fight.
Yes.
And now we're like,
yeah, that's crazy.
I cast invisibility. I sneak over here. Fireball. I cast invisibility. I sneak over here. Lightning bolt, or like stinking cloud, or whatever. You know what I mean? So it allows you to like what kind of
actions?
wizard could I think it's 2, just like the normal
standard.
One. So like what kind of shenanigans could I get into as a wizard who just always turns invisible all the time? And not greater invisibility because we'll get that eventually.
Right.
But like blinking in and out all the time.
What you did was you just narrowed down and further cemented an identity for that specific character
Exactly.
as a wizard power fantasy.
And
that
that's
you're not going
what
to get in other casting
focus
classes.
spells do.
Yeah.
They allow you to keep hitting on the same mark. Earlier, but when we were talking about the ranger, you're like, you're talking about that superhero analogy where like, oh, this is the thing. This is your one thing that you do. That's kind of what focus spells are there to do, is create I'm the sensory guy. I sense things
as
good.
a supplementary ability instead of a character defining ability.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
So like a Cyclops, that's his primary thing.
Right.
But a wizard has many, many, many spells they can cast. But invisibility all throughout combat.
But this guy,
that's his thing.
Yeah,
that's his chick.
This is Jake. Jake turns invisible all the time.
Hi, Jake. Where did Jake go?
And then finally, like this is an ability known to us well. Rapid retreat. May I say one more time? Teleportation OP. I literally just write that in all of my notes when I'm just like, teleportation OP.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a get out of jail free card.
Teleportation is literally just good. But this one is even better because it's a reaction when you take damage, and not only do you teleport as a reaction by using a focus point, you also gain like resistance 15 to the damage you just took. Dragrid would have loved to have this.
He must have been a bad wizard.
I don't know what I picked. Selfless idiot. But yeah, so that's my exhaustive list of all the good focus spells in the Player Core 1. Plus some, but like the classes available to you in Player Core 1. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I didn't think we were going to have that much to say about this.
Really?
And we went on a really long time, so I'm kind of happy with it. I also didn't know there were so many options. Like 131 options in one book is
Just
a lot
one
of
book.
fucking options.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah, and I definitely got a couple ideas for new characters. I will be posting a thaumaturge, I guess, who's multi-classing into Bard on the Discord if you want to check it out. We'll put that in the description for the each video gets a special page in our Discord where you get to talk about it, and that's where we post extras. And I'll post that extra there. I'll make it in Path Builder when we're done with this and put it up there. It'll be really cool.
Sweet. Is he going to be a goblin iconic?
Ooh, did we already make a Goblin Iconic Thaumaturge?
We did make a bard.
No, it has to be Thaumaturge Bard. Because the Thaumaturge...
We have made a thaumaturge.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that's the grandma.
Yeah,
Grandma
the
Goblin on the moon.
Well, this one can be a side piece. Or we can make a weird...
Grandma's side piece?
Oh, Eric.
Where are you going?
I just meant like we could just make another iconic... We can just make another goblin who happens to be a Thaumaturge Bard.
Yeah.
Her mother's mother. Oh, yeah. Turbo
Still
Dilf.
kicking. Not dead yet.
No, it'd be a gilf.
Roll for initiative,
Grandma.
bitches.
Anyway, so keep it weird, goblins. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.